What's going on, y'all? It's Athletes Culture again, coming at you with another video. So, word on the street after Terrence Crawford's stoppage of defeating Sean Porter last weekend by technical knockout. Many people have been calling out, there's a certain name that has always been attached to, or Terrence Crawford has always been attached to a certain name, and we all know who that is, and that is none other than Errol Spence Jr. Now, you guys have seen him in the fight right there, where he was caught watching after speculations or word. Actually, he did say it, not speculation. He did say that he wouldn't show up to Terrence Crawford fight, ended up doing so. And now, it's rumored to believe that Errol Spence is trying to avoid Terrence Crawford. In other words, he's ducking him. And, this just leaves me baffled at the fact that I don't see how anybody, number one, any boxer out there, they're not afraid of anybody. Period. Like, you can't be in the sport of boxing and being afraid and being a champion on top of that. That doesn't happen. So this only leads me to believe that this has to deal with a business issue, which many of us already know. And it only makes more sense that Errol Spence does not fight Terrence Crawford for a multitude of reasons. One, he's being advised, rightfully so, by Al Heyman, that is Errol Spence. And Errol Spence being advised by Al Heyman is a great decision for his career. We have seen him become a unified champion. At one point he was rated the number one welterweight in the world. And many people have said that this is stifling his career, which it's not, because it does not make sense for him to fight Terrence Crawford because there's a lot of work left in the 147 division over at the PBC. The PBC, under the tutelage of Al Heyman, control of Al Heyman, has done some great work in controlling a division, a very popular division, that being the welterweight division, 147 pounds. And they have even stretched over to 154 pounds where they control that too. They have Jermell Charlo, who's under their promotion, who fights under their stable. He's the number one 154 pounder in the world. So I don't see why Errol Spence will want to help Terrence Crawford, Terrence Crawford has done a masterful job of attaching his career to Errol Spence. No matter where he goes, it's always been Errol Spence being brought up, but the same isn't said necessarily for Errol Spence until recent times. Errol Spence has a masterful, resume. He has fought welterweights that he has needed to fight, to say that, hey, does he have a solid career? He's fought the Kell Brooks, defeated him. He's fought the Danny Garcias, defeated him. He's even fought a Mikey Garcia, defeated him. He's fought Sean Porter and defeated him. So these are four solid names, potentially, if not Hall of Famers, that Errol Spence has fought at 147 and has defeated him. Can we say the same for Terrence Crawford at 147? The answer is no. 140, yeah, he's a man. He was undisputed. Very small list. He was undisputed, no doubt about that. And there's no doubt about it, the skills of Terrence Crawford. But to say that Errol Spence is ducking him, no, it's not. It just doesn't make sense for him to fight Terrence Crawford at this point in time. And I know as a fan, you want to see the best fights being made. Yes. And that fight, I believe, will be made when Terrence Crawford makes the right decision by signing with the PBC, coming over to Al Heyman. He can talk all he wants, at the press conference saying that, that he's been going after him. He doesn't want to fight him, that his next chance, he's going to go to 154, but he's going to run into the same wall at 154. Who's he going to fight at 154? If he's not signed with the PBC. 154, you got Jermell Charlo up there. Who else again? I'm trying to think. Pull this up right quick. Jermell Charlo, Brian Castano. The top two 154 pounders are under the PBC stable. Jared Hurd, 154, PBC. Who else again we got over there at the PBC? Any top name that you could think of. Tony Harrison, PBC. And that would actually be a good fight. Tony Harrison versus Terrence Crawford. I would love to see that. J-Rock, PBC. When you just look at it, like, where could it go? Erslandy Lara, PBC. And Erslandy Lara, this guy's nearly 40 years old. He's about to be on his way out. But there's no way you can go. If we want to go down to even a younger age, like a Erickson Lubin, he's at the PBC at 154. Selecki, Austin Trout, Carlos Adames, all at the PBC. So I don't see where Terrence Crawford, what is so difficult for him to just realize that, look, this isn't anything that they're trying to stifle you, that they're afraid of you. No, it just doesn't make business sense to fight you. You have to come on over there. They are being advised not to fight you. Not because they're scared, but it just doesn't make any business sense. When there's a lot, they have a lot of other people that they can fight and help boost their career. At the end of the day, like, Floyd Mayweather once said, a belt don't make him. You are a prize fighter. Prize fighter. Emphasis on prize. And you fight for money. You fight for life after boxing. That is what you're fighting for, not for a belt. You've already proven that by getting to that level and becoming a champion. All right? You've already proven that. So at this point, it's all about money and what makes sense, and it doesn't make sense to fight Terrence Crawford for Errol Spence at the moment. Now, if he were to sign on over to the PBC, that being Terrence Crawford, because he's a free agent, come on over to the PBC, there's no excuse. There's no way. There's nowhere, a Spence or Jamil Charlo, if that ever happens, there's nowhere they can quote unquote run to, which they're not running. That fight will be made ASAP. ASAP. If Spence doesn't go ahead and fight Ugas, who's another champion under the PBC stable, another 147 pounder under PBC, unless that happens, I don't see where they could go. I mean, the next best route that you could see, and this doesn't necessarily help, I mean, the fight could be good, would be a Virgil Ortiz versus Terrence Crawford. All right. This really just helps amplify Virgil Ortiz. I mean, he's an undefeated fighter, pretty young dude. That would be a good fight, him and Terrence Crawford. But at all intents and purposes, we know Terrence Crawford smokes him. He's going to win that fight. Definitely win that fight. A switch hitter who has power, and precision. He's going to be a Virgil Ortiz. No doubt about it. And overall, I just think he's just a stronger fighter. Stronger, more skilled fighter. So that's going to happen. But all said and done, does not make any sense, any type of business sense. It's nothing personal against Terrence Crawford. It's not that they're afraid of him. You can't be afraid. It just doesn't make sense. And even if he were to avoid 147, just say, hey, I'm just going to go to 154, he's going to run into the same roadblocks because 154 is controlled by the PBC. So what are you guys not getting? They are not afraid of him. If anything, it's a business strategy by the PBC to force his hand to come on over and sign with them. What's he going to do? Go to 160? Okay, go to 160. You're not going to land a Canelo fight there. And even if you were to get a Canelo fight at 160, you'll lose that one, potentially. Another top 160 pounder that will actually make sense in you fighting will be Jamal Big Charlo. And he's with who? Oh, the PBC. He can potentially, I just don't see that happening. I don't see him fighting Demetrius Andrade. I don't see him fighting a Jaime Munguia, a Chris Eubank Jr., a Gennady Golovkin. I don't see any of that happen at 160. No, I don't see Terrence Crawford fighting any of those guys. Things may change, Let me not speak in absolutes. Things may change. But right now, for the foreseeable future, it only makes sense that Terrence Crawford will end up signing with the PBC for how many fights? Maybe it's a 2-fight, 3-fight deal. I don't know. But for the foreseeable future, he has to come on over to the PBC. And if at that point in time, if he doesn't sign with the PBC, you can now turn it around and say that, hey, Terrence Crawford is probably the one ducking. Play that game. Now, I doubt that. He's not ducking. Terrence Crawford isn't afraid. He's the number one welterweight in the world at this moment, But it only makes more sense if he has any type of business acumen. You sign a 2 or 3 fight deal with the PBC, come on over there. You get either Ugas, you get Terrence Crawford, not Terrence Crawford, excuse me, Ugas, you got Errol Spence. Heck, you may even get a Danny Garcia as a tune-up. You fight, do the same thing you did to Sean Porter to Danny Garcia. You follow the Pacquiao strategy, like how Pacquiao was chasing after Floyd, but fighting all of Floyd's leftovers. You could do this, which essentially he's doing right now. He's doing the same thing, fighting all the Errol Spence leftovers. You just fought Sean. Now you're going to fight Danny Garcia, possibly. I would say make that happen. You fight a Danny Garcia or a Abel Ramos, you know. He fights any of those guys. Particularly, you know, I would say Danny Garcia or even a Mikey Garcia. Make it a big name. Build that up. Beat any one of those guys, because you will. Then, hey, where's Errol Spence going to go? 154? I don't think... Okay, he go to 154. You're signed to a 235 deal. You say you're going to 154. Boom. You flip the script on him. But at this moment in time, I don't think Errol Spence is running from anybody. Not at all. Not at all. You can't say it's running. They're being advised properly. It's to force Terrence Crawford's hand to come on over to the winning side, which is Premier Boxing Champions. They got the welterweight down from 147 to 154 on lock. All right. So I want to hear what y'all have to say. Like, comment, subscribe down below. I'm out.